It ended, and you felt nothing, and you've been quietly worried about that ever since. Everyone told you it would be a relief. You told yourself the same thing for months beforehand. Once this is over, I'll finally be able to breathe. And then it was over, and you went to the shop, and you made dinner. And you slept badly, and that breath never turned up. If anything, it was worse. There was just a flatness sat where the feeling was supposed to be. And underneath it, a small, stubborn suspicion that this proves something bad about you. That a normal person would have cried. So here's the reframe, and I want to be precise about this one, because it usually gets softened into something completely useless. You did not feel nothing. What you felt was the absence of an ending. Pauline Boss, a family therapist who spent her whole career on one very particular kind of grief, gave it a name: ambiguous loss. Her original work was with the families of soldiers missing in action, people grieving somebody who was neither confirmed dead nor coming home. And what she found is that this kind of loss does not resolve the way ordinary bereavement does. Not because those families were weaker, nothing to do with that. It doesn't resolve because grief needs a fixed point to move away from. An ambiguous loss doesn't hand you one. There's no body, no ceremony, nobody sends flowers. The world does not agree with you that something ended. Boss later stretched the idea to cover relationships where the person is physically there, but psychologically long gone. And to relationships that end without the story ever getting settled. Where the other person walks off still believing their version. Where mutual friends aren't quite sure what happened. Where you can't say he died, and you can't say we broke up, it was mutual. Because neither one is true, and the accurate sentence takes about 40 minutes. That is the spot you are in. The loss happened, the ending didn't. And grief, it turns out, is quite literal about needing an ending to work with. Now the second layer. Because ambiguous loss explains why closure never showed up, but it doesn't explain why you feel so specifically flat. Bruce McEwen's work on allostatic load describes what happens to a body that has been kept adapted to threat for a very long time. The stress system doesn't dramatically run out. It quietly recalibrates downward. The responses go blunt. The baseline shifts. The peaks and the troughs flatten out. It's a form of efficiency. A system that cannot afford to react at full volume to everything eventually turns the volume down on everything, which means the numbness isn't an absence of feeling. It's the setting your feeling got left on. You spent a long time somewhere that having a big emotional reaction was expensive, where it would get used against you or mocked or filed away as evidence, so the reactions got smaller, then it ended, and the reactions did not immediately get bigger. Because nothing about walking out of a situation sends a memo to your nervous system saying the settings can change now. Let me put you in the specific moment. Roughly 3 weeks after, you're in the kitchen. And you've been fine, genuinely fine, boringly fine, functioning at a level that has quietly surprised several people. And you open a drawer looking for a bottle opener, and you find a takeaway menu from the place you used to order from on Fridays. And you just stand there holding it, not crying, just stood there with a menu for slightly too long. And what you feel isn't exactly sadness. It's more like that sensation of a word being right on the tip of your tongue. Except the word is an entire year of your life. Then you put it in the bin and go back to making dinner. That is what the flatness actually looks like from the inside, not an absence, a signal that can't finish. Now, here's the counterintuitive bit. You had been treating the numbness as the problem to be solved, as the thing stood between you and the healing you were promised. So you've been trying to feel it, sitting with it, journaling towards it, waiting for the delayed collapse that everybody warned you about, half dreading it and half wishing it would hurry up so you could get on with the recovery. But the numbness isn't blocking the grief. The numbness is the grief, in the only form it can currently take. Martin Seligman's early experiments on learned helplessness found that animals who couldn't escape a shock stopped trying, and crucially, kept not trying after escape became possible. The behavior outlasted the conditions by a very wide margin. Seligman then spent decades on the other half of that picture, on what makes some individuals never learn helplessness in the first place. And the more recent reading of that work is that the passivity was actually the default setting, and escaping was the thing that had to be learned. Now read that against your flat 3 weeks. The lack of reaction is not evidence that nothing happened. It's the last remaining piece of what happened. Still running? So what do you actually do with a grief that has no shape to grieve? Not force a feeling, and not stage some big moment of catharsis, which is honestly the single most oversold event in the entire recovery literature. The cinematic breakdown that reorganizes your whole personality. Some people do get one. Most people get a Tuesday where they cry at an advert and then feel a bit embarrassed about it. What actually helps is more procedural than that, and far less satisfying to describe. James Pennebaker spent years studying what happens when people write about difficult experiences. Not vent, construct an actual account. With a sequence, and a cause, and an effect across several sessions. And his studies found measurable effects on health and on day-to-day functioning. But his interpretation of why is the genuinely useful part. The benefit did not come from the emotional release. It came from taking something formless and giving it a shape. Which is exactly the thing ambiguous loss refuses to give you. A shape. So you build one by hand. Not for anybody else. Nobody needs to read it. And posting it would be an entirely different project. You write the version that has a beginning and an end. You name the date it actually finished. Even if that finish was administrative and completely unromantic. You give it edges. Because it is not going to grow edges on its own. And grief cannot travel across a boundary that was never marked. You should also know when it tends to turn up. Because it almost never turns up on the day you are expecting. Clinicians have described for a long time what's sometimes called an anniversary reaction. A resurgence of grief tied to a date, a season, a change in a light. And it isn't mystical at all. It's ordinary cued memory. Your body encoded an enormous amount of context alongside the experience. And context is a very reliable retrieval cue, the smell of a particular kind of rain. The exact quality of the light at 4 in the afternoon in one specific month. A song that was simply on a lot at the time. What that means in practice is that you can do really well for a long stretch, and then get completely taken apart by something with no dignity to it whatsoever. A supermarket aisle, a brand of washing powder, the sound a particular door makes. People experience that as a relapse and take it as proof that they've made no progress at all. It isn't, and they have. The delayed arrival is just what grief without a fixed ending looks like. It can't come at the ending because there wasn't one. So it comes whenever something in your environment happens to hand it a door. And the useful move at that point is counterintuitive. Don't push it away, but don't chase it either. Let it be exactly the size it is. It will usually be smaller than you feared, and it will pass quicker than you expect. And every single time it does, it takes a little of the flatness away with it. That is the real mechanism of recovery here. And nobody puts it on a poster because it is unbearably slow. Not one big release, lots of small ones arriving completely out of order. Set off by things you would never have chosen in a million years. Have a look at where the missing ending is still turning up. You rehearse the conversation you'll never get to have. You've got a fully written closing argument, and it's good, and there is no court. You check whether they've posted, not because you want them back, but because your system is still waiting for confirmation that the thing is actually over. You describe it to new people in a tone so measured that it sounds like it happened to somebody else entirely. And that last one isn't distance. That's a story that hasn't finished being a story yet. And here's what I'd want you to take away, more than any of the mechanisms. The flatness is not proof that it wasn't bad enough to hurt you. In quite a lot of cases, it is the exact opposite. It's a body that hurt so consistently, for so long, that it turned down the one dial it still had access to. It ended and you felt nothing. Give it edges, and it will start to reach you, later than it should. Which is, unfortunately, the schedule this whole thing runs on.